first. Okay.
Okay, I would actually like to hear more about the dynamic that was kind of brought up between Chris Cutrone and Michael Albert with the kind of the charges about how one organizes their organization. Chris, you referred to the obsession with process and in aiming to and having that get into the way of actually reforming something, actually winning. And then Michael, if I'm taking this right, I don't want to put words in your mouth. Michael, you seem to be of the sort of school that is, you first have to try to have a revolutionary vision for organizing your organization, and then you can move to reform something and have a sort of winning sort of hand. I'd like to just hear that expanded a bit.
Okay. Well, I was just remarking on the fact that the left, for instance, one criticism that I might have of the new SDS is its explicit anti-ideological character. I do think that ideological work has to be done, that we have to really think about what the social ends might be, and also think about capitalism as a system that constrains social ends. In other words, not merely as a system that exploits and oppresses people, because human beings have exploited and oppressed people over the course of millennia and eons, but rather how capitalism specifically really puts a lot of substantial issues of social ends completely off the agenda. In other words, it's not up to George W. Bush, it's not up to anyone, it's not up to the corporate leadership what the actual ends of society are. To that extent, I agree with the idea that we have to think about vision, but I also think that we have to regard the present not just as something to be resisted, or the present form of society as something to be resisted, but something that actually creates possibilities that didn't exist previously. In other words, something that Brian refuted earlier, I would say that capitalism continues to generate possibilities, and that's something that we have to be cognizant of when we think about what it means to try to overcome capitalism. My own experience in terms of activism is that it does degenerate quickly into navel-gazing and proceduralism, and I think that has to do with the fear of saying we want power over the ends of society. In other words, we want to engage in politics, we want to struggle, we want to fight, we want to win in the game of deciding what the ends of society actually are going to be, which is very different from attending to issues of respect and recognition, etc., which is essentially what comes out as the sort of bad conscience after the 60s. In other words, even a movement of movements, the idea that there are movements and that there are different constituencies and this kind of thing, whereas really we should be considering the world is far more unified in its fate than ever before in the history of humanity. And we can make reference to the ecology and things like that. And the stakes are very high for what the vision of the actual ends of society are going to be.